Approximately 1 in every 8 men faces prostate cancer in their lifetime. A very important aspect of being a man is being able to look after yourself. This includes your health. For as the saying goes, a man's health is his wealth. Join us today as we discuss this very important topic, man enough to check your prostate.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are so excited to be back here on our 7th episode of Man Enough. We have come this far by faith, leaning on the everlasting arms of Jesus Christ. We've learned so many things throughout these past 6 episodes of Man Enough, and today will be no different as we are talking on the topic Man Enough to check your prostate. We are talking on health today as we're about to enter what I would deem as the month that is the most unhealthiest month, December, the Christmas season. We're talking on health today. Man enough to check your prostate. And with us, we have 2 experienced, knowledgeable, godly doctors with us. We have with us Dr. Dawn Dutton, and we have with us also Dr. Damian Henry. Now I'm going to allow both of them to have the opportunity to introduce themselves so that we can get an idea of who they are. So we're going to start off with our fine lady today. We are grateful to have you today, Sister Dawn Dutton. This is the 3rd time we're actually having ladies on the show, so it's a privilege to have you today. Please introduce yourself and let us know who you are.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Dawn Dutton. I am a family medicine practitioner. I've been doing that for about 12 years now. Born and bred in Barbados, and I am passionate about healthy lifestyle, fitness, exercise. So that's it in a nutshell.
Okay, great. Glad to have you with us, Sister Dr. Dawn Dutton. And you, Dr. Chief General Damian Henry. Tell us who you are. Tell us about yourself.
Hi, good evening. I'm glad to be on the show. My name is Damian Henry. Been practicing medicine for the last 21 years. My area of specialty is actually public health, but been working as a primary care physician in my own practice for the last 14 years. And I've also dabbled a bit in palliative care for around the last 10 years. So that's my claim to fame of sorts. My practice, my motto is basically bringing people to health, bringing people to Christ through health. Is basically practice mainly focused on Christ-centered ministry in terms of reaching people where they're at. Like Dawn, very passionate about in terms of helping people living healthy lifestyles, but actually in terms of a holistic life, in terms of realizing that, it's all about balance and is all about not only eating well, but looking after yourself, but also having a good relationship with Christ, which actually basically, gives the best quality of life, not only for now, but for eternity.
Amen. Amen. Definitely. Health and the gospel go together, hand in hand. So thank you so much for being with us here today, Dr. Dutton and Dr. Henry. Grateful to have you today as we're talking on this very, very important topic. Man enough to check your prostate. Man enough to check your prostate. So we're just going to get right into it. So we always hear about this thing called the prostate. All right, so before we even get into the nitty-gritties of the prostate and all of that, we want to know what it is. What is the prostate? And does it have a particular function? And if so, what is it? What is the prostate? Tell us, and we'll start with you, Dr. Henry. Tell us, what is the prostate and does it have a particular function?
Is this some sort of bias because I have a prostate? The doctor doesn't have one? Well, the prostate really is a small gland about the size of a walnut when it starts. So it sits right below your bladder. Purpose of the prostate really is to contribute to, it actually manufactures the seminal fluid, which is the liquid part of the sperm during an orgasm, and that's what actually keeps the sperm alive. So prostate is actually very important. Did you tell my patients if there was no prostate, none of us would be here? So if you don't have seminal fluid to actually provide the glucose and the nutrients that the sperm needs to do its swimming job to meet the egg, it will never reach its target, and you would be infertile. So prostates are important, not only early in life, but as you get old as well. They also continue to do that function for us. Now, we're not very familiar with walnuts in the Caribbean, so limes are a more familiar topic. So let's say about lime size, and is right directly below the bladder. Another point of note is that the tube that you urinate through as a male called the urethra, passes directly through the prostate and out, and that's what causes a lot of the symptoms, which we'll speak about later on. And women do not have prostates. It's a man thing. So there you have it. I'll leave the rest to Dawn to fill in any gaps that I would have left.
Right.
Dr. Dutton, go ahead.
I think Damien pretty much, he gave you the whole gamut of that. Just to add that, as he said, it's below the bladder and it's actually located in front of the rectum. So that's why when you do that rectal exam, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little later, you're able to feel a portion of the prostate. That's just to give you a little idea of exactly where it is located.
Okay. So it's the size of a lime, it's below the bladder, and it is basically used to help in terms of reproduction when the sperm is passing out. So is it like it has a function to make sure that that there's a layer over the sperm cells or something like that so that it can swim well when it enters the vagina? Is it something like that, if I'm understanding correctly?
Well, so what
Anyone
happens?
can answer.
Yeah. So, all right, thanks. What happens is when the sperm are produced in the testes, they're actually transported from the testes where the seminal vesicles up into the prostate, and that's just basically sperm in of itself. It then requires nutrients to survive in. So what the seminal fluid does, it actually provides those nutrients and a kind of a sort of protective layer as well. So it's nutrients and protection. So it adds. So if you look at semen, you have the clear part, and then you have a part that is kind of milky and thick. The milky thick bit of it is actually sperm. The clear bit is actually seminal fluid. So if you men, if you see it, so men who tend to have a very low sperm count, it looks very viscous and clear. Whereas if the sperm count is higher, you have that thick globular stuff in there, which is actually the sperm. So if you're going to be a fertile male, which is functional, you need to have, a sperm of a good quality, which is thick and, viscous, thick, and has that, well bathed and that kind of stuff in the seminal fluid as well.
So, okay, great. Thank you so much for that information. So are you saying that it is very difficult or near impossible for pregnancy to happen without a good functioning prostate?
I would say impossible.
Okay, all right.
But with God, all things are possible. Because
Right, amen. Amen. With God, all things are possible. Amen. Sister Dutton, you wanted to add anything before we moved on to our next question?
Just that in the prostate, it's also important to note that a hormone is produced which converts testosterone to dihydrotestosterone. So that's also very important in terms of male characteristics and reproduction and all of that kind of thing.
Okay, great. I'm learning so much as we go along already. You guys are helping me to understand things that I thought I understood. But thank you so much. That's what we're here for today. So our next question is really that we're talking about prostate cancer. All right, prostate cancer. What we want to know, what the men need to know, is what are the contributing factors to prostate cancer? In other words, what causes prostate cancer? Is it diet, a lifestyle choice, genetics, environmental factors, etc.? Like what causes or contributes to prostate cancer? We'll start with you, Dr. Dutton. Tell us.
Okay, so one of the most important factors in terms of prostate cancer is age. It's rare before the age of 40. So the older a man gets, the more likely it is that he may get prostate cancer. So that's one thing as you get older. Another thing is ethnicity. So, lots of studies have shown that men of African descent, Black men, are more prone to getting prostate cancer. And not only that, but in some cases, it's also found that they have more aggressive forms of prostate cancer. So we have age, we have ethnicity, and we also have family history. Prostate cancer has a very, very strong family history component. So if your father had prostate cancer or your brother had prostate cancer, it's possible that may have been as a result of probably a genetic dysfunction. So that may also contribute to a person getting prostate cancer. Some other factors that they have pinpointed are diet. So diet high in animal fat, low in vegetables, that is one other factor. Damien, you want to add anything else, sir?
I think you touched most of the major things. In terms of the genetic side of things, in terms of yes, we look at male first degree relatives who would have had prostate cancer. But interestingly enough, a lot of people may not necessarily have male first degree relatives who've had cancer. But I usually like to tell patients, anybody who has a strong family history of cancer in their family. So if your mother had breast cancer or whatever, even though it's not the same type of cancer, breast, colon, and the reason being is that when we look at cancer and what causes cancer, the body produces multiple cells every day as part of the reproductive process and recovery process. And what happens is as cells are reproduced, there are errors made in that process of reproduction in terms of copying to replace the ones that are dying. If a cell is reproduced incorrectly, there is something called programmed cell death or apoptosis. So what happens is an error is made, and you realize that this error is not a good error that's not compatible with life or that will cause problems. Apoptosis happens, and that cell is actually removed from the cell line, and that allows then for us to maintain a healthy body of cells. Now, persons who have this strong family history of cancer, they have a gene that what happens is that does not allow this apoptosis to happen. So what happens is that cancer can develop anywhere. If you're a female, it might be in the breast. If you're a male, it might be in the prostate. But what happens is that this editing function that we would have doesn't work. And as a result of that editing function not working, it results in persons, when these errors are made, then these cell lines can persist and continue. And then you have big issues. So I usually tell people, once you have that strong family history of cancer, regardless of whether you're male or female, you just need to check yourself. Common things are common. So if you're a male, prostate and colon, those are the biggies. If you're a female, you have breast, you have endometrial, colon as well too in females. But you have that predisposition, and you will look and see when you take histories from families, they will tell, oh, my mom had this cancer, my dad had this cancer, whatever. And then they had prostate or whatever. So you see multiple cancers occurring in a number of individuals. So just a little word wise, so be sufficient. So you don't just look straight for prostate. Prostate, yes, but even if you do have other cancers in your family, you are predisposed.
Okay, noted. Julie noted. Sister Dutton, Dr. Dutton mentioned diet. She mentioned the greens and whatnot. Are there any foods, anyone can answer, and are any foods that we directly eat that actively contribute to this type of cancer, or as we're talking, any form of cancer? Fast foods, Kentucky, are any of these foods contributing factors to this form of cancer? Sister Dutton, since you mentioned it first, I'll let you go.
Right. Okay. Before I proceed to that, I just wanted to add that another risk factor that they have found that has an effect on causing prostate cancer or contributing to it is actually obesity as well. So that's another risk factor. Now, in terms of the diet, there have been some limited studies that have shown that lycopene, which is found in the tomato and the tomato products, that using that can have an impact in terms of decreasing your risk of prostate cancer. So that one I know for sure. But just generally eating a healthy diet, full of your fruits and vegetables, living a healthy lifestyle, getting your exercise, all of these things can contribute to lowering the risk of cancer in our lives.
Okay, noted. Yeah, go ahead, Doc.
Right. So in terms of you were asking specifically of things that meat preparation styles. So in terms of people who do a lot of barbecuing and grilling and steaks and stuff like that, as Don mentioned, the red meats and stuff, but also how you cook it is very important. So if you're big on the grill, and you eat large amounts of, barbecued meat, and the thing about it is that they said that a single barbecued steak, grilled on charcoal, can have more benzopyrenes in it than a couple packs of cigarettes. Uh, so it's just, yeah, shocking. But we as Christians don't smoke, but we love a good steak.
Duly noted, Doc. Duly noted. Duly noted. We've been having such a good discussion thus far, and we have another question to delve into. But before we even delve into any more questions for this day, we just want to take a short break.
Same as eating, drinking can cause illnesses or heal them. There are certain drinks that help improve health, keeping our body free from toxins. Discover healthy juices. Dr. George D. Pamplona Rogers' latest book, A Practical Guide to Juices, Infusions, and Other Drinks. More than 300 pages of information about drinks that can prevent or heal diseases. Different types of drinks are analyzed in the book. Water, juices, shakes, vegetable milk, non-alcoholic cocktails. It includes detrimental and inconvenient drinks as dairy milk, sodas, coffee, tea, mate, alcoholic drinks. Dr. Pamplona informs about drinks recommended for preventing and treating disorders of different body organs and systems. Vision loss, anxiety, hypertension, anemia, heartburn, cellulite. In addition, it includes practical advice on how to lose weight on a juice diet, eliminating any health risks, how to do a detox or cleansing cure for disorders like cholesterol, aging, allergies, depression, diabetes, breast and prostate cancer. Healthy Juices contains recipes, including information on the properties, benefits, and nutritional value of each ingredient. It is a book of excellent quality, with a modern design and colorful images, which make it attractive and very practical when preparing the drinks. A book that promotes the most important thing in your life: health, ideal for sharing with the whole family and putting it into practice. For more information, access www.safealise.com.
And we are back on our 7th episode of Man Enough, as we have been talking on the topic, Man Enough to Check Your Prostate. I'm your host, Cadique Tittle. And with me, I have two profound doctors, Dr. Don Dutton and Dr. Damian Henry. We've been talking about the prostate, contributing factors to prostate cancer, what the prostate is, etc., etc. And the question that we're about to discuss: at what age, doctors, at what age, because we've been talking about age being a factor to prostate cancer, but at what age and how often should a man have a prostate exam? When should I take that first prostate exam? And then after taking that first prostate exam, how often thereafter should I come back for checks? We can start with you, Dr. Dutton.
Okay, so the guidelines really say that a man of above average risk should start screening for prostate cancer at the age of about 40 to 45. And those men that are above average risk include men with a first-degree relative with prostate cancer. That includes Black men. So we generally like to start around that time for that cohort. If you are a man of average risk, you can probably start at around the age of 50.
Okay, okay, noted. Dr. Henry, you have anything to add in regards to that question?
Agreed with Doctor with Dawn on that. In terms of having your screening, occasionally I usually look at the age of my male patient and ask them, well, what age did your dad was your dad diagnosed with prostate cancer? And as a rule of thumb, if your dad got cancer in his 50s, I'll probably roll back 15 years before that and start your screening then, for those persons in the high risk category. And that's just a rule of thumb because I've had a few unfortunate souls who had prostate cancer in their early 40s. Again, that is my cohort is not the average cohort because again, I do palliative care medicine. So obviously I see, the worst of the worst. And but the average person out there in the clinic, you're not gonna see many 40-year-olds with prostate. Um, in your career, if you get what coming from, you might but one or two. I guess because we look at persons who are having challenges, I tend to see a lot more people in that cohort, and those are the sad cases. So for those, you just have a little more care in your mind that says, look, hey, when did your dad have prostate cancer? You tell me. Once you tell me that, I roll in about 15 years, so you can start early. Similarly with people who have colon cancer, any whatever your relative's diagnosis there is, your colonoscopy will be 15 years before that because, that's how we pick up things in the early. And we know that when we get it early, we can do stuff about it. Yeah.
You're talking about high risk. So high risk are based on what you're talking about in terms of family members having it. That
Fam-
that makes you high risk.
exactly. So we're looking at family members in terms of what, so the things that increase your risk profile into predominantly genetics. So if you have a first degree family relative, a father, a brother, who's had prostate cancer, and those are people that we're looking at. And those are the people who are. And then if we add on to your risk, we look at lifestyle. So you have that first degree family relative, and then your lifestyle then has all the red flags that we talk about. You love the red meat, you're overweight or obese. So you fall into that risk category. So we stacking on your risks. And so we see, well, look, hey, you are not the average Joe out there walking around. Your risk profile is a lot higher than other people. And those are and really and truly, in terms of screening, risk stratification is actually what screening is about nowadays. Before we used to do blanket screening, yeah, everybody come and have this done. What we try to do now in terms of, yes, you have your blanket screening from a particular age, but then we still want to get those people who are higher at risk and get them in early, because if we pick those up early, we can actually make a bigger difference. Because as Dawn said earlier, a lot of these people who have, these very aggressive cancers tend to have them early. And by the time they show up, you don't have much time in terms of dealing with it. If a fella presents at a stage 1, you can actually treat and cure him. If a guy presents now at stage 3 or stage 4, that's, good night, Irene kind of stories. So it's all about finding you early and making a difference, in your life. And that's the whole purpose of doing the prostate screen in the first place. Not just to be cruel and unkind and stick fingers where you don't want them to go.
Mercy, we're getting to that, doc. Don't jump the gun. We're getting to that. So I just have one question. So I am a young man, docs. I'm a young man. Early 20s. I'm healthy, strong, married, and my family, we don't have a history of cancer, any form of cancer. So you're saying, docs, that I don't have to go and check with that prostate examination until later on in my life, in my 40s, closer to 50s. That I can understand that, right? I'm good. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying that, yes. I would
Yes.
say
Amen.
Yeah,
Amen.
you are pretty good for now.
For now, amen. In Jesus' name, amen. I good for now, amen, amen. Which leads me to my next question, though. So we're talking about Dr. Henry just mentioned stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, 4. Are there any indicating factors that one's prostate is going bad? And if so, what are the telltales that men should look out for to let them know that they need to seek medical attention for their prostate? What are the telltales? We can start with Dr. Dutton. They say ladies first. I'll start with you. I'm picking on you today. You can you can let us know.
Okay, no problem. Before I move on to answer that question, I just wanted to build on what Damien said just now. He said if you catch the prostate cancer when it's early, when it's localized, so the prostate hasn't spread, the 5-year survival rate of that is close to 100%. However, if it has metastasized to other parts of the body, the 5-year survival rate is about 30% or less. So it's very important to catch it when it's early. Now, in terms of those telltale signs, there are several symptoms that can occur, but you have to be mindful also that some of these symptoms can also occur in other conditions, such as what we call BPH, or benign prostate hyperplasia, where the prostate just enlarges as you get older. You can also have these symptoms if you have an infection, a urinary tract infection or a prostate infection. So you have to just weigh everything, in balance. So the symptoms you may have blood in the urine. You may even have blood in the sperm. You can have frequency, you're going to the bathroom very often. You can have urgency, you feel as if you really want to go to the bathroom and you just can't wait. And this happens because the prostate enlarges and it tends to squeeze that tube that runs from the bladder that's called the urethra. You can also have leaking, dribbling, a poor stream when you go to urinate. If the cancer, unfortunately, has spread, then you can have symptoms such as bone pain. So you can have pain in your back and your hips. You can have weight loss. You can suffer from erectile dysfunction. So there are a multiplicity of symptoms.
My word, my word. That giving me a little headache now. I hope it's not doing the same for other men who are listening. Dr. Damien, what about you?
Right.
Yeah,
So
go for it.
my main thing is basically, so a lot of people ask about what are the symptoms of prostate cancer. And I said to them, do you really want to know the symptoms of prostate cancer? And as you said, right, Cadet, really and truly, when you hear about the things happening, blood in your urine, blood in your semen, back pain, frequency of urination, you don't want to wait till you have symptoms to actually visit the doctor. And that's the truth, because from the time you start presenting with symptoms, a lot of the time that's indicating that the cancer is a little more advanced in size, and it has actually started to move through. It is not confined as well confined as we would like it to. So from the time you present with symptoms, it means that your staging may be a bit higher than we want it to be. And then uh, so I tend not to use symptoms as a guideline to say, well, wait, you see I have a problem and come. The whole idea of this program and all programs like this is basically to encourage men to get, man up, as you said, man enough, and come and get yourself checked out, put things in place and have a good health seeking practices in terms of having your prostate done, you have your screening done, so that you don't wait till you see a problem. Far enough, we see men coming at the time when they have symptoms, and that is unfortunate. A few years ago, I would say a friend, he was a patient for many years, and a very intelligent guy. We would have wonderful discussions and stuff, and he's one of these people that when you confronted him about having the test done and stuff like that, he would always postpone it. I'll do it another time, whatever. Until one day he turned up in the office and he actually went to the bathroom, and he realized that he was passing blood, and and in his urine. And then so obviously he came and we examined him and stuff like that. And he was one of these rare cases in terms of where you have a very aggressive type of prostate cancer called small cell carcinoma of the prostate, which doesn't produce a lot of PSA. So if you're using your classic screening techniques to check for an elevated PSA level, his PSA level was not that high. So it would be easily missed. Um, and but on digital rectal examination, his prostate was huge and involving a fair bit of his rectum and that kind of stuff. And it was quite sad because he had an early PSA done a few years, well, I think about 10 years before, and obviously that was normal and the DR was normal. But over the time, he was busy. He was a man who was self-employed. He had all this stuff doing, so he never made time to look after himself. He always made sure his kids went to the doctor or his wife went to the doctor. But when it came to him, he didn't take that time. So the symptoms, yes, are there, but as we progress onward, and as Dawn started, no symptoms is usually what happens in persons who have stage 1. And stage 1 disease is disease that's basically confined to the prostate itself, and is usually less than 1 centimeter, so it's small. Stage 2, you're looking at like 2 centimeter, still confined to the prostate, approaching the capsule of the prostate. So the prostate has this little layer above it. Stage 3, you're actually starting to look at, going outside the capsule of the prostate and stuff like that. And stage 4, you're involving local lymph nodes and tissues around. And so the higher the stage, you're actually looking at worse prognosis. So from like stage 2 downward, you stand a pretty good chance of treatment and cure in terms of what can be done. Stage 3 and onward, the prognosis actually becomes a lot poorer. So you really and truly don't want to wait till you're having major symptoms to be seeing your doctor. You want to be there before. I see a worried look on your face, Brother Tittle.
Mercy.
The headaches.
Mercy.
The headaches.
Mercy. The worried look on my face is really coming from the question that I have in my mind. The frequency. I don't know if you guys would have answered that question. So we touched on the age of when you check your prostate, but the frequency thereafter, after 45, 44, at what point should I take my next check? And my next check, how often after that do I have to go back? Because docs, I'm not gonna lie to tell you that the thought of going to take this exam is not the most comforting thing as a man. So I mean, how often would I have to go to check to make sure that I'm good?
All right, so I usually say, well, okay, so your first, you need to do at least, so your PSA examination, which is the prostatic specific antigen, which is the blood test, that is as good as we have a baseline for it. So you need to have your baseline tests, either, well, if you're high risk, obviously you have your baseline test a little earlier. If you are, normal risk, you have your baseline in your 40s. So we see what that first number is. Now, the PSA's reading is supposed to be between 0 and 4. That's supposedly normal, quote unquote. So you have your first PSA, and then we recommend to do a second one a year later, and DR as well, because that would give us an idea of assessing the size of your prostate, how it is growing and stuff. And the prostate grows as you get older. So prostate cancer is not the only disease that you have to worry about as a male. There are 2 other diseases of the prostate. Is benign prostatic hypertrophy, which is actually hyperplasia, which Dawn mentioned, and there's prostatitis, which also happens to men in their 40s and 50s, usually men who are type A personality, high stress and busy and that kind of stuff. And we can touch on those if you have a little time. But the fact is you need to have that baseline. So I would say for at least for the first 2 to 3 years, you need to have an annual prostate examination. If your numbers are consistently coming below 1, not 4, 1, so if your numbers are between 1 and 0 and you have normal risks, sometimes we can say, well, look, hey, we will give you a break and you can skip a year. So as opposed to having an annual exam, we may do it every 2 years, but your PSA has to fall between 0 and 1, so it has to be under 1. On the other hand, if your PSA is above 1, so it's between 1 and 4, you're having an annual exam still every year. You're coming back, you're having it done. Now, once the exam is done properly, I know you're a little scared, but once you're done properly and you're relaxed, it is not uncomfortable. It is uncomfortable. It is not painful. It is not pleasurable, but it's not. It is not painful. Just uncomfortable. And the correct way of doing it is basically having you in a relaxed position, taking some deep breaths in and out, and the practitioner finger just slides up. We palpate the prostate, and you're in and out there in less than a minute. Except we feel something that may be a little odd, and then we would say, hey, yeah, you need to check this area here a little bit more. But generally speaking, it is a relatively quick examination, and once done correctly, it is not painful. So no need to fear. And Dawn's fingers are a lot smaller than mine, so you can always go to her.
No comment on that part. No comment on that latter part. But anyway, thank you for that insight, Dr. Henry. We're going to discuss this other question, and it's piggybacking on what we're talking about here in terms of the fear factor. All right. So based on your medical experience, would you say that men are uncomfortable or even fearful of going forward to have a prostate exam? And if so, why do you think that is? And we're going to be discussing this particular question right after our break.
So what are your English language and communication needs? How can we help? At Langdo Language Institute, we offer 4 unique packages designed to meet your online learning needs. Our most popular product, the English CSEC class, is for anyone, current students and adults who wish to sit the CSEC English exams. Offered online, this class is available to anyone, anywhere within the Caribbean who wishes to study with us. Did you drop out of high school and was not able to sit the CSEC exam? Our Get Ahead with English package is just for you. Our personalized classes will help you improve your communication skills, complete high school English, and prepare you for CSEC English exams. Our Business English package offers job application assistance with resume writing and interview prep, as well as business communication. Our newest product, the newest one, is the Study Buddy program. It is just for high school and college students who are seeking academic assistance as they navigate the online learning platforms. We offer homework assistance, SBA help, and private tutoring. Contact us at 767-285-0938 or email us at langdolanguage@gmail.com and tell us, how can we help you?
Good afternoon once again. We are back as we are discussing a very important topic today on Man Enough. Our topic of discussion is man enough to check your prostate. Man enough to check your prostate. And again, with us, we have Dr. Dawn Dutton and we have Dr. Damian Henry, and they have been informing us on the prostate, the necessity of checks and all the rigors around the prostate. And we've been fully informed this afternoon. And so we're going to be delving into another question based on these doctors' experience. And Dr. Dawn, I'm going to start with you. Yes, I'm picking on you. I want to hear it. I need to hear it from a female's perspective. You know, so based on your medical experience, would you say that men are uncomfortable or even fearful of going forward to have a prostate exam? And if so, why do you think that is?
Okay, so even in the best of times, men don't like to go to the doctor, for whatever reason. They lead busy lifestyles. They can't find the time to go. They may be fearful. Some men say, if I am sick, I don't want to know. Just let me live my life. Let me enjoy myself. And when I die, I die. So if they're ill, they don't want to know. Also, as Damien mentioned, the digital rectal exam, that's a bit uncomfortable. Maybe they may have heard horror stories from other men, and they say, you know what, that's not for me, so they're not going to get that done. I find also with men, it tends to be a pride thing. So they say, I don't get sick. I haven't been to the doctor in 20 years. I'm good. I'm tough. And and another thing is that they say, and this may go for men as well as women, I feel well, so why should I go to the doctor? I feel fine. There's nothing wrong with me. So in my experience, those are the reasons that I have come across.
Interesting, especially one when it comes to pride and whatnot. I want to hear your feedback on that one, Dr. Damian. Tell us.
A lot of it is a lot of what I find in terms of, like what Don said is very true. But a lot of it stems from socialization and raising. Men and women are socialized completely different in all cultures. And if you look at, from a public health standpoint, if you look at the disparity between life, so in terms of survival, I think women live an average of 5 years more than the average man, and in any society. United States, the gap is, I think women's expectancy is, I think it's like 80, close to 84, 85. Men live like 79. Barbados, the expectancy used to be like 79 for women and 75 for men, somewhere in that vicinity. It runs across cultures. You pick a culture, you do it, you see that vast disparity. Women, on the other hand, are socialized to go to the doctor from very early. So, in maternal and child health, if you have kids, you are going because of checks with, your child and stuff like that. Pregnancy ensures that you actually have regular checkups. So a lot of women get into the habit of coming to the doctor on a regular basis. If they have a challenge, they're taught to actually seek help and assistance from very young. So if you look at a boy and a girl being socialized, a fellow falls and he's told, "Man, get that's off yourself, man. Don't be a little sissy." And your girl falls, "Come, please, it's not hurt. You want some medicine to put on that, whatever." So, and these things, we may laugh at it now and it sounds funny, but these things basically impact how people care and value their health. Your health is your most important resource, and this is something that people are not taught to think about, from young, especially men and women. Well, women for sure value their health, but men don't see health as a resource. They don't think that if I'm not well, I can't work. Work comes first and health comes afterwards. I feel good, so I'll keep doing it. But you need to maintain your health so that you can keep doing it. And a lot that does not translate. Then there's the whole fear factor. So those are the socialization aspects of it. And then there's the whole fear factor, as you mentioned before, in terms of, I am afraid of, somebody putting their finger up there. And then, well, I am a male doctor, so, I ain't getting a man to do that to me, So it is, so you have these different, and in our society where there's a fair level of homophobia, that also plays a bigger role in terms of some men not coming forward to be examined and checked. And even they come to the office and you say, "Hey, I gotta check your prostate," and you can see them kind of like, "We gotta do that today, doc." I said, "Well, today is a good day, if we put it back to tomorrow never comes," according to my granny. So, it is today, and you just, jump on it and do it. And I find, for me, in terms of, I work in a private, Dawn works in a public setting, I work in a private setting. So for me, my thing is opportunistic medicine. Somebody comes with something and, you can actually get a prostate test, then do it. Give them the form for the PSA, because if you wait for them to come back for an appointment to do it again, you're not going to see them. And a lot of people we pick up by opportunistic medicine in terms of, they come for one issue and you target something else. And, a lot of men will show up if they're having a problem with reproduction function. So if they're having erectile dysfunction and, they're having difficulty having intercourse and that kind of stuff, or there's some other challenge, they would show up. They may get an injury or something like that. And they say, "Well, why you're here? Well, last you had your prostate checked." And you bring it up as a conversation point and, kind of encourage them to have it done and, and as part of the whole process. In the private sector, obviously, there's a cost to doing the PSAs and those kind of things. So you tell them, "Look, hey, if we do the DR today, we can examine the prostate and see what's going on. I can give you the request form and you can have the PSA done in a month's time. And that should be okay in terms, and I will call you back with the results." So that works for some people. So you just find ways and means of encouraging people, because generally, as you said, men are hesitant. They have different health seeking practices, and a lot of them are fearful. And the thing about it is that after doing the examination, right, a lot of fellas are like, "It finished." That's all it was. And like in shock and disbelief. Like they expected so much more, that it was going to be some sort of travesty, and that's a good thing. And then so I said, "Well, you can tell your friends that it's not as bad as you think it is." And so,
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, both of you, for your feedback on this particular question. I don't want to put you on the spot, but then Dr. Henry would have just mentioned some tactics that could be utilized to help men in terms of the phobia, to help men to actually get the check. What other recommendations, as our men are listening, what other recommendations can be given so that our men can be more inclined to go and not only check your prostate, but go and check your overall health? Do we need more programs like these, so that certain taboos or certain false thoughts about your health are diminished? Like, what do we need to do to get our men to check their health? Sister Dottin, what do you think?
Well, certainly programs like this are very important in terms of getting the message out there. I think just general education. So, advertisements on the TV, on the radio, the print media. And I find also what helps is a man's significant other. So, the wife will tend to prod them to go and get the test and the girlfriend. So, if we can also educate the women, they can in turn, kind of encourage the men to go and get, their test done.
Okay, fair enough. Dr. Henry, I know you gave a few tips. Do you have anything else to add? You don't have to, since you did give a few tips.
In
Tell us.
terms of what Dawn said there, in terms of the significant others, I think that's also a key point. I find a lot of women, what they do, they would make dual appointments. So I'm coming to see the doctor, and he's coming with me. uh, and I find that works because it shows that this person cares about your health and your well-being, and they're willing to take that step in terms of making sure that you get checked out as well, and to maintain your health and look after your family. The other thing that we didn't really touch is basically in terms of getting into the male peer groups. So like men congregate in different areas, the social clubs, a lot of men spend time in the Caribbean, the shop, the bars and those places. A lot of men's issues come up in these points. And these are not areas that I tend to be frequented in terms of health. Every year before COVID, there was this initiative that was run by a particular company called May. And I can't remember the name of the initiative, but in terms of May, you were advised to know your numbers, with your blood pressure and that kind of stuff. And there's a shop that's down the road from my office. And every May, I would actually make the initiative just to go there and offer free blood pressure and blood sugar checks. Now, their initiative is a shop and a bar. So I'd be sitting in the bar section, and just by convenience, a lot of the men would come and have their stuff done. In terms of blood pressures, the blood sugars, and a lot of people would pick up by accident. So they're not going to come to you, but if you go to them, you can actually engage them, arrange. Obviously, in that setting, you can do blood sugars and blood pressures, but prostates are a little more, need a little more privacy and that kind of stuff. But it is an initiative that could be done where you go into the communities and work with people where they're at, and I think that will give you a higher level of thing in terms of reaching men.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for the wealth of knowledge that you've been sharing today. We're about to delve into our final question for the day. Final question. Besides prostate cancer, are there any other diseases or health concerns that men should be aware of? And if so, what are they, and how should the men go about guarding themselves? I know, Dr. Henry, you talked about prostatitis, I believe, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. What other health concerns should our men look out for besides prostate cancer? Sister Dottin, we can start with you. Again, I'm so sorry I've been picking on you for the day, but God be praised nonetheless.
Okay, that's fine. So in the Caribbean, we have a very, very high percentage of chronic non-communicable diseases. So the hypertension, the diabetes, this leads to the heart attacks and the strokes. So for sure, men want to go and get screened. They want to get their blood pressure checked. They want to get their blood sugar checked. That's a must. We also want to talk about the cholesterol. So you can also get that tested. You can also talk about the sexually transmitted infections. That's something that people don't talk about a lot, but that's something that men and women should also get screened for. In terms also of drug and alcohol abuse, in our setting, we don't advocate using drugs and alcohol, but in the general setting, we also want to talk to our men about that. Something that is not often talked about also is depression. Men don't often admit that they are depressed, but these statistics show that men are more likely to attempt suicide because of depression, and they're also more likely to complete suicide. So they're actually more successful in completing suicide than women. So it's actually recommended now that when we see men in our offices, that we also screen for depression. So those are the things that just come to me off the top of my head.
Yeah, adding to Dawn's thing is basically in terms of the screen for, because the second leading cancer in men is actually colon cancer. So that's the next thing that we also need to really be, pushing the screening for. And interesting enough, the deaths that contribute to prostate is the same death that contributes to colon. That the lack of fiber, lots of red meat, high processed foods and stuff like that, and along the strong genetic component. Interestingly enough, in the last couple of years, we've been seeing people who have been dual cancer. So we see somebody who comes in with a colon, and a few years after treating the colon, they have prostate, or vice versa, which is not uncommon. Before we thought it was rare, but within the last, I would say, 5 years, we've been seeing a few of those in the palliative care setting, where we have people with more than one type of cancer happening, and it's very interesting, predominantly in males. The NCD screening and the sexually transmitted diseases screening and the depression screening are very valid points in terms of that Dawn mentioned, in terms of having people look after their general health and the mental well-being and balance. The other thing that we also need to look at there for men is basically occupational health and safety. Men tend to have more work-related accidents. Now, where my office is located is in a rural area, so I supply care for a whole lot of men who work within the agricultural sector. And every year in crop season, I will see somebody with a severed finger or damage, from lacerations from, implements and stuff like that, or chemical exposure. They were spraying and something went into the eye. And a lot of these cases could be prevented where people were not wearing the correct, protective equipment and stuff like that. And what I've been doing is speaking to a number of the plantation owners and business owners in the area. And every year, a couple of them have taken it on. Every year I go in and I do a medical, because if I wait for them to come to me, they're not going to come. But if their workplace actually sponsors it in terms of saying, well, look, we're going to do a medical on everybody at the beginning of every year to make sure they're well, that works out better. And it's just a small cost for the employer in terms of getting, and it improves the quality of your workforce anyhow. So a lot of them are actually coming on board to have the workers screened at the beginning of the year in terms of making sure that their health are okay. And the truth is, in that screen, we pick up tons of men who have problems with high blood pressure and diabetes. And these are the people who would never have come to the doctor. The ladies who come, they may have the problem, but they're on medication. A lot of men are not on anything at all. So it is finding ways of reaching men where they are and screening them. A lot of them will not miss a day of work to come to the doctor, except they are horribly ill. And by that time, if they do have diabetes, I saw a guy a couple of years back, and he came with a finger that was infected. And the only reason that he came is because he could not hold the collins anymore to work, and he was a diabetic, horribly ill. I think he ended up losing the finger after all, because it was gangrenous. But and that's the kind of stage a lot of men turn up at the doctor at, and this is what we're trying to prevent. So it's not only about being man enough to check your prostate, it's about being man enough to take charge of your health and look after yourself, and you're your most important resource. Because if you're healthy, you can actually look after yourself better, you can care for your family, and you can be, provide a good contribution to society. And that's not only physical, that's mental health as well. A lot of mental health issues with men, they deal with it at the rum shop, or by the dope man. So I worried, so I will they will not say anything to you. And a lot of men are very good at masking depression. So they may laugh and make a lot of jokes and crap fun, but when they go into their quiet spaces, they go into these horrible moods where they feel helpless and there's no hope or whatever. And then you find them looking to abuse substances, alcohol, marijuana, whatever, which results in horrible things down the road. A quick touch on the BPH that I had mentioned, because I had brought it up. Not BPH, prostatitis. So prostatitis is an inflammatory or infective disorder of the prostate, and the prostate is usually swollen. So when you do the digital rectal examination, the prostate is swollen. The symptoms are similar to that of you would have with BPH, where you find frequency of urination, but you have difficulty when you have the urge to go, but when you go, only a small amount comes, and you have hesitancy. So you go to the bathroom to urinate, and you have to wait a while for the urine to come down. The classic thing is that when you do the examination, The prostate feels kind of like a high density mattress. It kind of feels boggy, whereas the normal prostate would feel like your nostril, and prostate cancer feels like a hard rock or table. So that's just the difference in textures between BPH, prostate cancer, and prostatitis. Prostatitis is easy to treat and it resolves very quickly. So
Thank you.
And
Thank you so much. Go
sorry,
ahead.
one other point I wanted to make in terms of screening. Most people don't think about it, or many people don't think about it, but vision. So one thing that is very common also in Black people is glaucoma, and it's called the silent thief of sight. So a lot of people say, I can see well, I can still read my Bible, but they may not realize they actually have glaucoma, and they may not notice it until they have they've had a partial or a complete loss of vision. So that's something that is very important as well.
Okay, docs. Thank you so much for the wealth of knowledge that you have left with us today. Our time is running out, but I just want to give you a final opportunity to leave the final word with our men today. Sister Dutton, I've been picking on you all day, and I will not stop. I'll start with you. Give us your final words that you want to leave with our men today.
Okay, so I just want to say, men, we appreciate you, and we want you to take care of your health. So, just do what your wife says. Go and get that test done. Go and get that blood test. Go and get that screening test, because we want you to be around for a long, long time.
And Dr. Henry?
Supporting the Adon. I can't say I appreciate you, because then it was looking at me kind of strange, But at the end of the day, we need to take a very, as men, we need to look after ourselves. We look after our families, we look after our kids, but as they say in the plane, please put on your mask first before you do the others in your care. And that's my advice to all men out there. Please put on your oxygen mask first before you look after those in your care. You need to care for yourself before you can actually care for the others around you. And encourage your fellow men to do the same. One of the things I saw very heartening a few years ago, and a little short story I'll share with you. I had two brothers, they're twins, and they approached their 40th birthday, and they were a little scared to have the prostate exams done. So they actually booked the appointment together, and they said that they will come in, and support each other, so that if I need, when I'm getting my exam done, and things get broke, I would tag in my brother, he would come and hold my hand and whatever. So they actually came as a team to support each other, and I thought that was, everybody doesn't have a twin, but everybody has a good friend that they hang out with and stuff. And so when you're going for your check, encourage your friend to come along with you. And it's not only prostate, it's high blood pressure, it's getting your sugars, and it's getting your full checkup. And if you do that, if every male encourages his good friend to have their stuff done together, it works. Me and my good buddy, we are doctors, if you're so we care for it. That's how we work it, Yeah, you go to get your checks. Yeah, we go and get. So we do it together, and that's how it works. So, and that's the best way of getting it done. Encourage your friend to come along with you, and if you encourage your friend to come along with you, that's two men being screened, or three men being screened. Who how it works, and that will basically make a big difference in the long run. I encourage you men to look after yourselves, and and more importantly, put God first, and everything else will fall into line.
Thank you so much to both of you, Sister Dutton, Sister Brother, my bad, Brother Henry. Thank you so much for being on today's episode of Man Enough. Man, you guys made today's show very impacting. So I'm thankful for you guys. I'm thankful for your ministry. I'm thankful for your line of work. And we are looking forward to probably having you on the show again to talk about another health-related issue if you have the time. Thank you so much to our viewing audience for being here today. We were grateful to have your presence today. My name is Cadique Tittle, your host. And until next time, be man enough to look after your health. Blessing.
Thank you for joining us on our Man Enough program today. You can feel free to contact us via phone at 767-614-2878. Or you can reach us via email at youaremanough@gmail.com.
Hello, all. My name is Cadique Tittle, the host of Man Enough. Unfortunately or fortunately, today's episode of Man Enough to Check Your Prostate, was our final episode for this season of Man Enough. But let not your heart be troubled. We have season 2 commencing on the 2nd of January 2022, where we have so many more topics to discuss. Throughout this season, we would have learned so many things. We would have discussed man enough to be a real man enough to be a provider, to be educated, to have fun, to get married, to share the leisure, to share the money. And today's episode talking about man enough to check your prostate, to look after your health. So we had so much fun throughout this season, and we're going to have so much more fun throughout season 2, starting again January 2nd. 2022. So enjoy your Christmas break, enjoy the season. Be man enough to look after your health and to watch what you eat this season, and be man enough to trust God until season 2 of Man Enough. God bless you.